Hello, I'm Dr. Scott Wadier.
And I'm Tommy Welling, and you're listening to the Fasting for Life podcast.
This podcast is about using fasting as a tool to regain your health, achieve ultimate wellness, and live the life you truly deserve.
Each episode is a short conversation on a single topic with immediate actionable steps. We cover everything from fat loss and health and wellness to the science of lifestyle design.
We started Fasting for Life because of how fasting has transformed our lives, and we hope to share the tools that we have learned along the way. Hey everyone, welcome to the Fasting for Life podcast. My name is Dr. Scott Wadier, and I'm here as always with my good friend and colleague Tommy Welling. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hey Scott, how are you?
Doing fantastic, my friend. Excited for today's conversation where we get to sift through the dozens and dozens of questions and contact us forms and messages that we get and identify some of the more pertinent, high-level questions that we think move the needle, especially for you new listeners, but also a re-engagement for the OGs of the long-term followers as well. So excited to go through a listener Q&A today. Some of our most downloaded podcast episodes. We are grateful for each one of your downloads, likes, shares, rates, and reviews. So if you are new to the podcast, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks for giving us a shot to be part of your fasting, weight loss, and health journey. If you want to know more about Tommy or myself, head back to episode 0 and episode 1. Give them a listen. It'll give you more insight into who we are, how fasting transformed our lives, and ultimately why we do week in and week out on this podcast, in our coaching groups, our challenges, and why we have all of the resources, the free resources that we do on our website. So if you're looking for more support, grabbing a resource, head to the show notes. All the links and information are there for you. Tommy, we have a shout out from one of our listeners that came through on Spotify. So let's give a shout out to one of the listeners, and then we'll get into today's Q&A.
Cool. Let's see. Purple Llama Wishes.
I love it.
Wishes. That's so good. Said on episode 36, which was looking back at a 48-hour fast, was actually said, "Hi, I just found you guys yesterday. Been doing mostly OMAD, so that's one meal a day for about 7 years. Wow. I'm right now doing a 48-hour fast, and your podcasts are very motivating and helpful. Thank you." You're very welcome, Purple Llama. Way to step outside of your comfort zone, because 7 years of OMAD, I mean, that's amazing. Sounds like you've found a good balance for maintenance for yourself, for long-term sustainability, but it never hurts to step outside of your comfort zone. And even for maintenance, I love an occasional burn day, a flame day, usually a couple times a month at least, just to kind of flex that muscle and keep it toned, keep it strong, and then keep that mindset like, yeah, I can pull off a flame day when I want to. It's really, really empowering, even if you don't need additional movement on the scale, et cetera. And we'll talk about that a little bit more during today's Q&A too.
Absolutely. Shout out Purple Llama. Love that name. My daughter would love it too. I love a 3-day fast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, once a month, once every couple of months. I love a yearly 7-day fast for a reset.
Me too. Yeah.
Absolutely love it. So shout out, keep up the good work. And thanks for the comment and the encouragement.
Yeah.
It truly does keep us going. We love it. We love all the comments. We love the likes, the subscribes. We love it all. So thank you so much for showing us that we're on the right track, and we hope to continue to support you on your fasting lifestyle journey. So let's get into the questions. We had a question come in from Linda with a Y. Love it. And she said, I'm 5'4", 112-pound female. A1C is 5.7. I recently started 16-8 fasting.
Nice.
My concern is I do not want to lose any weight, but want to take control of my A1C. Any recommendations? What a great question.
Awesome question, Linda. Yes, we do have some recommendations. Congrats on starting with your 16-8 fasting. That's a great place to be. It's especially a great place to start, but it's also a good opportunity where what you're implying here, Linda, is that you want to get maintenance level caloric intake, maintenance level nutrition and fuel balanced out with just, let me get some better control over my blood work. I know I don't want this A1C quite this high. It would be nice to get it down a few percentages there. And a good way to do that is for you to be prioritizing protein within that nutrition opportunity window. It's also going to be The earlier that 8 hour nutrition opportunity window can start, that's going to be better. It's going to be better for A1C, better for insulin sensitivity and blood sugar utilization and keeping that balanced.
Last
Because,
podcast episode we just did was on an
yes.
early eating window. So that would be
Mhm.
like hands down number one recommendation. You just said the top two that I had in mind. So
Yeah.
perfect. I love it.
Yeah. And speaking of the last podcast, it would also be adding in some resistance training, right? Some sort of exercise where you're stimulating your muscle cells, because those are going to be your powerhouse for insulin sensitivity as well. So if you can stimulate more of your muscle cells, you're going to be able to more quickly and efficiently utilize the blood sugar that is ticking up during that nutrition opportunity window, which is a normal part of that process. But then also, I did mention prioritizing protein. Look at your carbohydrate intake, or if you have any alcohol intake. Those are two big ones that, even if you have a good level of maintenance calories coming in, and you are time restricting your actual eating, those two, if your carbohydrates or your alcohol, either one of those are high, there could be substantial room for improvement. That's also going to lead to room, or also going to lead to improvements rather, on your A1C, right?
Yeah, there was a cool article out of the Sidney Kimmel Medical College. It's called Jefferson Health, and they were talking about how intermittent fasting is a common for a weight loss tool, but it also expands to treating insulin resistance, patients with diabetes, prediabetes, and other conditions.
Exactly.
So Janine Krelios, MD, the director of the Comprehensive Weight Management Program, really loves to use this 18-6 window for a whole host of metabolic benefits. The main one being working on that insulin sensitivity. So protein, check. Some form of resistance training, check. Getting quality nutrition in your nutrition windows, check. Moving your 18 window from the standard skip breakfast, eat from 12 to 8, shifting that earlier in the day,
Yeah.
check. So those would be the main levers that I would recommend pulling. And Tommy, you talked about food choices in terms of carbohydrates. We know that carbs are the main driver of a blood sugar or insulin response, right? So that's why we recommend more of like a 40-40-20, prioritizing protein, 30 to 40% fat, and then back ending your meals and filling your plates with the fiber and those more complex carbohydrates, natural carbohydrates,
Natural carbs. Yeah, for
non-refined, non-processed carbs. Absolutely. Those are also great for progesterone production in the second half of a woman's menstrual cycle. That really helps that to balance that progesterone production. So if you're noticing more cravings leading up to menses, then that's going to be something you can add in during your eating windows and a couple times a day. So getting those more complex carbohydrates in earlier in the day is better for insulin sensitivity than later in the day. So
One more thing for Linda. Oh,
yeah.
yeah, was just sleep too, because
Yeah, great point.
if you're not getting sufficient sleep, that can actually be enough to throw off your A1C, because insulin sensitivity goes down by up to 30% with insufficient sleep from one day to the next. So even with the right number of calories, even with resistance training, good macronutrients, you can still see your A1C ticking up just from insufficient or low quality sleep. So take a look at that as well, if that's a lever for you to pull, Linda.
So really, we want to be shooting for minimum 6.5 hours of sleep a night.
Minimum.
Yeah. Minimum.
Minimum.
And women need slightly more sleep than men. So minimum. Got it. I think I get the point. All right, great. Great question, Linda, with a Y. Let's see. We have a question that came in from Trevor. Hey guys, first of all, thank you for your content. It's truly amazing to have as I continue on my fasting journey. Happy to have you on this journey with us, Trevor.
All right.
I'm almost at my target weight and I've been trying to figure out my maintenance plan.
Nice.
Great.
Congrats.
Point. Yeah, congrats. Originally, I was going to stick with OMAD because it's been working well for me.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I listen to Dr. Walter Longo's studies and recommendations on his longevity diet, I'm torn. He argues TRF is helpful, but eating in such a tight window can actually be detrimental to things like the gallbladder. He also points out to centenarians mostly eating at least 2 meals a day. What are your thoughts on this? Well, we got some thoughts, Trevor. So, I completely agree. So, if you're in a let's make a distinction of a fat loss / weight loss phase versus a maintenance phase.
Okay, good distinction.
So you have a fasting tool that's been working consistently for you. You were thinking, I'm going to stick with OMAD. That's great. That's a great strategy. Now, if you have gallbladder issues or liver issues, right, or physiological things beneath the surface, then yes, you may see a sensitivity to your digestive process in terms of bile production and glycogen storage in the liver in the short term. But over time, that stuff actually improves with getting the weight off, balancing the hormones, and adopting a fasting lifestyle.
Absolutely.
So as we get closer to maintenance, yes, we need to try some things on for size. Because if you just go from your portion sizes and food choices and start fasting, that's going to work. If you don't change your portion sizes or food choices with fasting and you have considerable weight to lose, doing OMAD is going to work for a while. But then it's going to stop working because those lag measures of making those different decisions and the changes in your decision making and your core values and your identity around your food and your lifestyle need to change. So you're still going to use fasting as a skill set when you get to maintenance, but you just need to figure out, you don't want to go back to doing what you're doing. And it doesn't sound like you are, but I'm just speaking and taking some liberties here. Thank you. In just speaking to the big picture to put this into perspective for folks that aren't yet close to that maintenance goal.
True.
So we should be eating food. Food is fuel. So for me, on most days at this point, I'm a 2-meal-a-day guy.
Okay.
And we've talked about this on multiple recent episodes this year about shifting those eating windows earlier in the day. That doesn't mean you can't have an OMAD dinner or an event at night or a celebration or travel or vacation, etc., where you may be eating later than you typically do. So I would absolutely split that OMAD. If you're doing one meal, then open it up into a 2-hour window. So have a small protein paste little opener and then have your main meal a little bit later in that window. Or you can just go to what we call a TMAD approach, where you can split that intake up over those 4 hours if you're concerned.
Okay, just into 2 distinct sit-down eating opportunities then.
2 meals. Yeah, 2 meals. So I typically will eat early to late morning because I don't typically like breakfast. We got a busy mornings, kids, drop-offs, wife's in practice, lots of moving parts. So I typically like to get up, hydrate, stack my hydration for the day, and then have a meal late morning, around noon at the latest. And then I'll typically eat a smaller meal. So I do my main meal late morning or midday, and then a smaller meal when I'm not doing my, a 36-hour fast or a 72-hour fast, which I do periodically now. I'll have a smaller kind of protein paste, air quotes, snack, like a mini meal later at the end of that window, just to make sure that I'm getting my protein in and that I'm satiated for that thermic effect, and then sets me up for the second half of the day, which is 5 to 7:30, which is kids, pickups, drop-offs, sports, all that kind of stuff. That just simplifies my life.
Yeah.
So you're still going to use the same skill sets, but you're just going to open that up because that's more sustainable long term.
Sure.
For sure, on days that you're busy, have 1 meal a day. It's totally fine. If you're not having any of those issues, those underlying issues, but you shouldn't, because over time we know that the body's going to heal. You're going to maintain your weight loss. That's going to be optimal for health and longevity.
Yeah, it's a great point because you don't have to do the exact same thing every day.
We actually don't recommend that you do.
Yeah. In order for it to be a sustainable and balanced plan for maintenance,
Variety is the spice of life. Man, so cliche.
That's true too, though. But maintenance looks different for everyone. And just the fact that you're thinking along the OMAD lines or the 1 meal a day lines, because that was a big tool for your fat loss phase. I love the contrasting that against different ways to do maintenance, because also think about it like this: if you only had 1 meal in a day, is that going to be a sufficient opportunity to get in really good nutrition and enough calories to sustain your basal metabolic rate, to sustain your musculature? It can be tough to get in all of the nutrition that you need within 1 meal, especially like you said, without putting undue stress on things like the gallbladder and the liver and the digestive system. And you to be intaking 24 hours worth of fuel in a matter of an hour or less. What are you going to do with the rest of the fuel during that time? You're going to have to store it away and then pull it back out. So it might be more optimal to do that broken up over a couple of meals at least some of the time. So I love this track that you're on, Trevor. Great way to think about it. And I'm glad that some of Dr. Walter Longo's old research kind of got you thinking along
this
these
way,
lines,
yeah.
because some of the things that he did years back, maybe 10, 15, even 20 years ago, some of those things, looking at some of the fasting effects and cellular healing, cellular cleansing processes, some autophagy research, and some other just really groundbreaking fasting research is really, really good, and still dictates some of the decisions that I make with my fasting lifestyle.
Yep. I love it. Great question. Trevor, keep up the great work. Thanks for listening. Thanks for having us be part of your weight loss, fasting, and health journey. So great stuff. I just want to give a shout out here to Jane coming in from the UK. Hey guys, I've been listening to your podcast for a couple weeks and I'm in my first long fast, currently at 60 hours. Thank you for the inspiration. Thank you, Jane, for inspiring us to know that we've got people from across the pond and across the world. We've got a big Australian, New Zealand. We got people from the Philippines. We've got a big European contingent as well. So,
so cool.
Just wanted to give you a shout out, Jane, from the UK. Thanks for the kind words and keep up the great work. All right. Now we have another question. This is a great question. This comes in from Richard, 74-year-old, now in good health again. I won't go through all of the details here. However,
glad to hear that though.
2016, he retired, jogged 5 to 6 miles a day, lost 100 pounds, had some knee issues 7 years later, started doing some fasting in 2023, but started to add some weight back on due to eating more refined carbs. And then in 2024, late 2024, he had bilateral knee surgery and began the recovery. So seems like you've done a really great job recovering. Modified the diet to include wild-caught fish, kefir, Greek yogurt, increased my protein levels and probiotics, all incredible changes that you made. So healthy blood pressure, and then began OMAD in January of 2025, so just this year. I don't count calories. I don't weigh myself. Preach it, Richard. And I've gone from a large medium shirt and a large to a medium shirt and a 38 waist to 35.
Wow.
Incredible. So he does
awesome.
OMAD 6 days a week, and the seventh day is 18.6.
Oh, there you go. That's cool.
The major addition is I added weight training, upper one day and lower the next day, along with 45 minutes of rowing, 8 to 9 minutes of level 3, and then the rest of it at level 2, and then 20 minutes in the sauna.
Okay.
Huge sauna proponent. Love it. I get 25 minutes in, usually around 4 to 5 times a week. Tommy, you've got a sauna in your garage.
Oh, yeah.
Lucky you. That sucker gets hot. I know.
Yeah.
Love the sauna.
Cool.
So here's the question. I heard on several podcasts that this is too much exercise for my age. And doing this while fasting could be bad. So check with my doctor.
Okay.
Interesting. Unfortunately, I'm having trouble finding a doctor that takes my insurance, that doesn't just do a pill for every ill and treats the cause, not the symptoms. You're preaching to the choir, Richard. So glad to have you on this journey with us. Not mad, it's just the system. I concur. Is OMAD in my exercise too much in a day? I wish I would have listened to this when you two started. If you had read this over, if you want to read this over a future podcast, you can edit and shorten it. You'll get 6 stars.
Ooh. Thanks, Richard.
Dangling the carrot, Richard. I like it. So I don't know the exact context, but what I didn't hear is I'm hurting, I'm tired, I'm hungry.
Getting sick a lot.
I'm getting sick. I just feel fatigued. I didn't hear any pain points in here. So I don't know if you're familiar with Jack LaLanne, but he was 100 swimming across oceans and stuff.
Yeah, he was inspiring.
Yeah, highly inspiring. So I don't agree with that. This could be too much. Now, is that a lot of exercise? It is. I mean, I'm just going to encourage you that if you're doing that every single day, which I'm not sure if you are or you're not,
Mhm.
that when do you rest and recover?
That's a
Are you
good
training
question.
for a triathlon, an Ironman?
Hmm.
You can be world's strongest man. Like, what is your what problem are you trying to solve? Do you just love it and enjoy it?
Hmm.
I would just want to encourage you that you should have with that amount of working out, not because of your age. If you were 35, I would say this. I say the same thing to my wife. Hey,
Hmm.
when's your rest and recovery day?
Right.
It can still be an active recovery. You can still walk and do the sauna.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a sedentary day.
Yeah, or do some zone one, zone two rowing. But I just want to encourage you here that if there is no pain point, you feel good, the blood pressure is great, the body recomposition is happening, you're energetic, your sleep's good, then I say keep going. But I would encourage you, if you are doing this every single day,
Hmm.
to have a rest and recovery day or an active recovery day at least once a week.
And it sounds like, Richard, that you're kind of halfway into that for your 18-6 day anyway. You're thinking about that day as kind of that's kind
A
of a
refeed day.
nutritional, yeah, it's
Yeah.
a nutritional recovery day. So you could pair that up with your physical recovery day if that works, or you could use a different day during the week. Let's say, for example, if you're going to do one day a week as kind of an active recovery day. So I think that that's great. And I mean, success leaves clues, and if you're feeling really good and you're feeling strong and energetic and have a good cardiovascular system and cardiovascular output, it's because of the training that you've been doing so diligently and consistently. So keep up the great work, and make sure that during those nutrition opportunities, especially on the OMADs, that those are very intentional and that you're getting good nutrition. And for that 18-6 day, I'm almost kind of surprised if that you only have one of those, per week. If you feel like you need to have more opportunities for nutrition sometimes, then you could consider a second one,
Yeah.
maybe even every other week, like that, and see how that feels too, because a little bit more fuel might be what you need whenever you're not feeling 100%, like if you have been in a state of relative, like, slight overtraining or moderate
Yeah.
overtraining too.
So I do have a hint of I ran, what was it? I do
Five to
see a
six miles.
hint of this possibly. Where was it? I retired. I jogged 5, 6 miles a day. So it sounds like when you go all in, you go all in.
Mm.
And I love that. But if it's not broke, don't fix it. Not because of your age. You're in great health. You're doing something you love. But I would just encourage that active recovery or active rest day at least once a week.
Love that.
Yep.
Keep up the
Keep up
good
the
work,
great
Richard.
work. Yep.
Yes.
Thanks for the 6 stars. I'll be looking out for it. All right. We have another question that came in from Kerry, also from the UK.
Hmm.
Had a few questions. So products may vary, but what can I put in my tea or coffee? Did you say cream? I'm told putting milk in my coffee breaks the fast. Is this right? Well, technically speaking, yeah, anything outside of water, you're breaking your fast.
Sure.
Now, we're not dogmatic in this. If your cup of coffee with a couple tablespoons of creamer is going to keep you consistent and make you happy and have look forward to that cup of coffee,
Hmm.
then I see no problem with it.
And you get to enjoy your fasting lifestyle even while seeing results on the scale or in your blood
Yeah.
work, or for long-term sustainability if you're in maintenance. Great.
This is like the paper cut in a house fire. Oh, the
Yeah.
house is burning down. I
Oh
got a
no.
paper cut.
Oh
Okay,
man,
well,
I got a splinter.
I got a splinter. Well, okay, where are the tweezers? No, get the hell out of the house, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
Let's focus.
if it's working for you, if it's not increasing your hunger, if you're not doing 5 cups with the sweetened creamer and you're just putting a little cream in your coffee, yeah, that's keto. It's not going to kick you out. Are you technically breaking a fast? Yeah, but if it's sustainable for you and it works for you, then I say do more of it. So, second question. If I chose dinner, I wouldn't be eating until around 9 p.m. every night. Is this okay as long as I keep it at 9 p.m. every night, or should I choose a different meal to have, as again was told, it stops you losing weight if you eat after 7? Does it matter what time the last meal is?
It
So
matters. Yeah.
it's not that the calorie matters. What matters is that we have a circadian biology, and we've done a whole host of research, episodes on this recently in 2025, where an earlier meal has a better insulin sensitivity and better blood sugar management. That's a mouthful. So if it's working and it's working for your life and you're seeing results and the scale's moving and you feel good, then you don't need to change it. But what we know is the later you eat, the less potential insulin sensitivity you have. So the same meal at 9 a.m. versus 9 p.m., the 9 a.m. meal, based on circadian biology, you're going to have a better, up to 30% better blood sugar insulin response in the morning.
Which is huge.
You don't have to keep completely flip it. Move your meal a couple hours earlier for a couple weeks, then move it a couple hours earlier. Then try to get it in that sweet spot of that midday or early afternoon. I think that might be a good landing place for you.
Yeah, I think that would be really, really helpful. And one last thing that she said was that this has been a really sedentary time, and also going through menopause and wanting to know like if that could have something to do with not losing the weight. Absolutely. Both of those things will affect absolutely the fat loss process. However, that doesn't mean that it's not doable and that you can't make progress during those times. So absolutely keep doing what you're doing, but also keep looking for ways to do it better, like you are right now too, Carrie. And I think if you only had the choice to do that 9 p.m. meal or a much earlier meal, then do some of the earlier meal. Like
at least a few days a week.
That would be awesome. That would be huge, and it would be worth doing. You don't have to change everything for every single day. It doesn't have to be perfect to be worth making the change. If you were only able to make that change half of the time, that would give you so much benefit right there from the physiological response that Scott was talking about. And that's gonna help you move the needle faster, more consistently. It's gonna protect sleep, which then you're waking up the next morning with a higher level of insulin sensitivity like you want, and more prepared for a better day, less cravings, easier time sticking to your fast. And then now you have a chain of momentum that you're starting right there.
So for me personally, like a lot of the decisions I make on a day-to-day basis are around my sleep, my stress levels, and my heart rate variability, right? So before it was getting the weight off, targeting the visceral fat. I'm still working on the last few pounds of visceral fat. But sleep is a huge thing for me. So I notice when I eat late, especially if I eat out, my sleep gets disturbed. I just don't sleep the same.
Yep.
So if I'm going to eat a late meal, I definitely go low carb. Because if I have a big bowl of Italian, right, with the extra meatballs for more protein, I'm still going to sleep like crap and sleep hotter.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had those carbs. That's just me. So you just need to figure out what works for you. If it's working, great. To Tommy's point, try to find out ways that you can optimize it. And I really think moving that eating time earlier in the day will be beneficial.
Yeah. Love that.
Yep.
Keep up the good work, Harry.
Absolutely. All right. So we got one more here from Kev. Been following you for a while. My story goes, started fasting August 2024, lost 77 pounds so far.
Wow.
Heck yeah. Daily 20-hour fast, Monday to Friday, bit looser on the weekends, 16 to 18-hour fast. Still 24 pounds to target weight. So yeah, you had about 110 pounds to lose, it looks like. So you're about 3/4 of the way there. I've added weekly 48-hour fast, which I hate. Me too, Kev.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
48-hour fast is my least favorite fast in the world.
Yeah. What did Upton Sinclair say in the fasting cure? No sane man or woman would continue to do 48 to 72-hour fast over and over and over.
And over again.
Something like that. I'm paraphrasing.
Not that you're doing it back to back to back, right?
Right. But
there's
still,
a guy on Instagram that I
you're
follow.
saying they're hateable.
Yeah, they're just hateable. And that's because of the physiological changes and the hunger and all that. Now, if you can get through that, man, there's euphoria on the other side. So if I rarely do a 48 to 72-hour fast unless I'm going to be doing a longer extended fast, like the 1 to 2 times a year that I do 5 to 7 days.
Okay.
Just
kind
as like a mental,
stone?
like a mental reset, a 1 year time a year reset. I love to do that, especially at the beginning of the year. Just sets the intention for the year. But anyway, 48-hour fast. Yeah, those are not the most fun. So
hold on. There was somebody on Instagram.
Oh, somebody on Instagram. He's lost and kept off like 150 pounds.
Okay. Wow.
I can't remember his handle, but his tools that he used to get there were 48 to 72 hour fasts.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm like, holy moly, dude. Like, I don't know how you did that. So like, like mad respect, man. Like, what do the kids say? Like, mad respect, bruh. Like,
So,
just,
something like that. I don't
dude,
know.
so old. Get off the lawn. So if you're struggling hating 48-hour fasts, why don't you back it down to a 36-hour fast and do, because you're going to get most of the same physiological benefits in terms of insulin resistance and insulin sensitivity, and just do like breakfast to the following day dinner, or dinner to the following day, skip a day to breakfast. Is that right, Tommy? I always mess up the, okay.
Yes.
Say it more
Yes.
say it more clearly, because I just botched that.
Well, yeah. So if you went down to 36-hour fast, which you could absolutely do, then and you were if you were going to do two of those in a row, then essentially you could go breakfast to the following day's dinner. That's a cool way to do it. And then if you're going to go from dinner and then you wanted to do another 36-hour fast, then you just skip a day, so have a burn day, and then you would go to breakfast the following day after the burn day. Okay. And so a cool thing to remember there is that when you go from dinner to that 2 days later breakfast, I like to change that meal up so that I'm not really feeling like the cravings and the hunger during especially during that midday, during that flame day. So I would go much lower carb and make that a smaller meal too, if it's going to be dinner and then skip a day going into the breakfast rather. So the other thing I wanted to mention was I like the shift going from the weekdays to the weekends. That's absolutely a testament to making this work for you for long-term effects, which is great, because if it doesn't feel like it can fit in with my schedule in my life, then I'm not really gonna. I might be able to white knuckle through it for a while, but it's not going to ever feel like it's the plan for me, because I'm having to kind of like just change everything or say no to too many things for too long, and that's not really going to feel like that's meshing with my lifestyle. And so I want to give a shout out to that right there.
Absolutely. And just big picture here as we wrap up for today. And thank you all for the kind words, the feedback.
Yeah, thank you.
And the submission and the patience in getting through all of the questions and getting these back out to you. So thank you. Yeah. Is the fact that you've had incredible success, and you're at that last point where you've got the last quarter of the weight to lose.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you'll see changes happen more slowly, but they're still happening. So really focusing on the non-scale victories, this is where the rubber meets the road in terms of sustainability, from what the research shows of that weight regain that happens for 95% of people that have lost significant weight between year 2 and year 3.
Yep.
This is where you've got the identity shift, the changes. So you're not going to see the big drastic swings that you used to see when you lost the first 77 pounds or the first 3/4 of your goal, 75% of your goal. Mm-hmm. But here's where non-scale victories, so clothing sizes, pictures, measurements, making sure that we're adding in some of the things that we talked about in previous questions about maintenance today. This really became a maintenance-heavy episode, Tommy, or a sustainability episode, which I love. I mean, that's a great problem to have from our perspective, is that people are doing it and it's working, right? So now how do I figure out this new problem? But as you get closer to your end goal, the consistency is going to win. Things aren't going to happen as drastically as they used to, but that doesn't mean that changes aren't happening. So the scale becomes secondary, and then resistance training, proper hydration, sleep, body composition, right? That's where we're going to create the sustainability, and that transformation is really going to get rooted in where you can keep this weight loss off for the long term. So I want to encourage you, look for those non-scale victories. Put the scale in a secondary position and start focusing on some of those other levers that you can pull, because you're in the crux of where some people get stuck and they end up falling off and start ticking in the other way. By no means am I putting that out there in the universe for you, because you're absolutely crushing it.
Right.
But this is a sticking point that we see as you transition to maintenance. You need to use the tools that got you there in a different way. So you're still going to use fasting as the tool. It's the vehicle. But be willing to make some changes. Let those changes go for 2 to 3 to 4 weeks and kind of see how your body's responding, how you're feeling, and start looking for those non-scale victories.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. And when you're just coming off of this conversation, take a look at whatever you're doing, and this applies to everybody. Take a look at what you're doing, and where do you have a pain point or a sticking point or something that you're trying to do and you're just not sure about it, or your confidence is not high enough to actually like go forward with it because you're just like, you're kind of wavering in that uncertainty. Well, that's a great time to, send us a note, put in a review, put in a question so we can grab it and we can talk about it during an upcoming Q&A. But then you can also go grab the blueprint to fasting for fat loss, where you can find some actual actionable steps that you can go put into your day-to-day fasting life and lifestyle right now. And then, if you need a little bit more encouragement or guidance, or you want some more advanced Q&A where we can talk through some of this stuff, join an upcoming challenge too, because we're going to have a lot of fun with exactly scenarios like this, personalize it for you.
We have a whole day dedicated to it.
Yes. Yeah. So you can keep moving the needle in that customized way, because everybody's fasting journey is different. And I feel like that's one of the things that gets lost in a lot of the fasting conversations that are out there in social media and in the podcast world. It's not a one size fits all solution, even though it sounds so simple that it must be easy, but it's not always easy to implement, especially not over the long term for big lifestyle changes and big transformations like what you're going through right now, like what you're pulling off, Kev, and like what Linda was talking about with A1C and balancing out blood work. That stuff's no joke, but it's very doable when we start to customize this process and get it right.
Absolutely. Love it, love it, love it. All right. Q&A episode in the books. If you're looking for more support, head to the show notes, upcoming challenge, new resources, new fasting persona quiz. Grab a resource, keep learning, keep leveling up, keep taking action, Tommy.
Yes.
Appreciate the conversation as always, sir. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.
So, you've heard today's episode, and you may be wondering, where do I start? Head on over to thefastingforlife.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive fasting tips and strategies to maximize results and fit fasting into your day-to-day life.
While you're there, download your free Fast Start guide to get started today. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Fasting for Life.